The first of two planes carrying hundreds of American citizens from a virus-hit cruise ship quarantined off the coast of Japan has arrived back in the United States. The aircraft was chartered by the US government and it landed at the Travis Air Force Base, which is in Fairfield in California. You can see it here arriving. Australia, Canada, South Korea and Italy also made plans to evacuate their nationals. Japanese officials saying the number of infections on the ship, the Diamond Princess, has risen to nearly 400. And that makes it the largest cluster of cases outside China. Well, in China itself, the outbreak is now known to have infected more than 70,000 people. More than 2,000 new cases were reported on Monday, most of which were in Hubei province, as Freya Cole now reports.
These pictures released by Chinese state media show a sparkling clean hospital floor with neatly prepared beds lined with perfect precision for victims of the new coronavirus. But this unverified video shared on social media paints a very different picture. The person who posted it says this is the situation in the emergency department of Hubei Provincial People's Hospital on Sunday afternoon. The hospital is in Wuhan, the epicentre of the outbreak. It is cramped and overcrowded. The Chinese Communist Party has insisted it is managing to curb the outbreak. Strict travel bans are enforced, especially in the Hubei province. Citizens are ordered to stay at home unless there's an emergency. But some public health experts say quarantine isn't the only answer.
This is a respiratory virus that has efficient community spread. That's not something that you can actually expect to be contained. It spread for probably weeks in China before anybody knew about it, since at least November. So it had seeded the world, and it's likely mixed in with our cold and flu season in many different countries because most of the cases are mild and not recognized. So I don't think this is something that's containable, and we really need to move from containment mentalities to mitigation because we're really wasting time and resources on containment.
The latest official figures reveal there has been a decline in new cases, but the numbers are still high, more than 70,000 worldwide. Scientists are working furiously to create a vaccine, but until then, it remains a volatile global health situation. Freya Cole, BBC News.
And let's just take you live now to California, to Fairfield Air Base. We can see the Travis Air Force Base in Fairfield. We can see the second plane that is carrying US nationals just arriving there now. So there have been two planes carrying a few hundred passengers, US passengers, from on board the Diamond Princess. And this is the second one that we can see here now. But what is actually happening on board that cruise ship at the moment? Our Japan correspondent Rupert Wingfield-Hayes told us more.
Well, Lucy, there's been another large jump in the number of cases confirmed on the ship again today. The Japanese government is now moving quite rapidly to try and test everybody on board. They tested another 504 people today, and out of those 504, 99 were found to be positive to have the virus. So that's around 20% of the people that they've tested today. And that follows large increases yesterday and on Saturday. 70 new cases on Sunday, 67 new cases on Saturday. This very clearly points to at least a strong suspicion that the quarantine on board that ship is not working properly, because we're now 13 days into the quarantine period out of what is supposed to be a 2-week quarantine, and yet today we have 99 new cases. And that, of course, is one of the reasons why a number of governments, including the Americans, have moved to get their citizens off the ship. The first evacuation took place overnight. 2 aircraft came from America to pick up close to 350 Americans who went on board and have now recently, just in the last few hours, touched down in California, where they are going to be quarantined again.
It's a ship, Rupert. You would have thought that would mean it was easy to contain something like this. What are the authorities saying about why the quarantine is not effective?
Well, the Japanese government has not made a clear response to that allegation. They are continuing with their line that the quarantine, that is a safe place and the best place for those people to be quarantined. But that has been challenged by experts from all over the world, including from places like Harvard University in America, where health experts have said a ship is not a good place to quarantine people because you can keep people in their cabins, But there is an air conditioning system that circulates air around the ship. If the virus is airborne, it can get into air conditioning systems. If it's not airborne but droplet-borne, then it can be passed by the crew. The crew are still working. They're still having to make food and take it round to all the passengers on board. And there is a possibility, therefore, contact infection. And so health experts say they should have all been tested and taken off that ship as soon as possible 2 weeks ago, and that didn't happen.
What about on land, Rupert? I see celebrations for the Emperor's birthday have been postponed for this weekend. Any other changes to daily life in Japan?
Well, it's still pretty calm, I have to say, although the infections are slowly rising in Japan, and we've seen infections over a number of different areas of Japan, popping up in a number of different areas. People are pretty calm here, but the government is now moving to curtail some public activities. As you said, the Emperor's birthday, usually the Emperor comes out and greets thousands of people who meet in front of the Imperial Palace on his birthday. That has been cancelled because they're worried about so many people gathering in one place together. And there is also now talk of what is going to happen to the Tokyo Marathon on March the 1st. It hasn't been confirmed yet, but there are unconfirmed reports that Tokyo is considering only allowing professional athletes to take part and discouraging or even stopping all the amateurs from taking part in this year's marathon.
Let's just return you now briefly to the United States, where the second aircraft that had been bringing US citizens home from Japan has now landed. This is actually San Antonio in Texas. So the plane, one returning to California and this one here returning to Texas, where those passengers will be facing another quarantine for coronavirus checks in the United States. These pictures coming to us from San Antonio in Texas.